Welcome to Season 3 of FitPro Sessions, your bi-weekly essential nutrient to progress as a FitPro. Today's vitamin PC is, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Hi, I'm Neil Bergman.
And I'm Hayley Bergman. Over the last 10 years, we've helped thousands of fitness professionals to get qualified, learn with simplicity, and coach clients with confidence.
We're the first to say that learning and being a FitPro doesn't have to be hard work, and that with the right structure, support and resources, you can become a confident and knowledgeable fitness professional that is dedicated to more.
So how do you learn, qualify and kickstart as a FitPro? This is the FitPro Sessions podcast with Parallel Coaching.
And this is the final episode number 10, Vitamin PC of season number 3.
Woo-hoo!
I hope you are well.
So we've had 10 episodes of, I'm going to say, sheer genius of diving into quotes and
extracting the lesson, and
absolutely.
the feedback has been superb. So we've done 10 quotes, and today's quote is, for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. Before we get going, I just want to say thank you for listening. High five for all of the reviews we've had, all of the comments, likes and shares. And again, if you've got value out of this episode, particularly before we jump into season 4 on Thursday this week, please go ahead and spread the message for FitPro Sessions.
And what I'd love you to do is take a photo of you listening to this podcast right now. Take a photo or a screenshot and post it to your stories or inside our Inner Circle Facebook group.
If you're not inside the Inner Circle, obviously there's a link below. Whatever social channel you're listening on, it's below.
It's in the show notes.
So there we go. So today's quote is, for every action is an equal and opposite reaction. And if we go through all of the last 10 quotes, I'm not going to read them all out, but you'll see that it was a really lovely journey through them. And today's finale is absolutely superb. So if you're listening for the first time, and this is your first introduction to FitPro Sessions, I'm going to suggest to go back to the start of season 3, start episode 1, because they do elegantly flow through.
Exactly. So this quote for me,
Go for it.
every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. This reminds me of a spring. Okay.
Let's get springing.
Springing.
Here we go.
Okay, let's bring in our step. This is the idea of squashing this spring down. That's your first action. So as a result, there's then a reaction from that spring that gives you an opposite and equal. So that same amount of force opposes it back up.
So you're saying you've got this spring. So imagine if you're on video with us right now on YouTube, you can see if I push down, there's a certain amount of time, energy, and effort and force in order to push the spring back down, to push it down. And then if I let go, there's an equal and opposite time, energy, effort, and force that springs back up.
In the same way as if you only push that spring down a little bit, you don't get much rebound.
Wicked.
Same goes into a stretch reflex in your muscles.
Ooh.
A little bit of anatomy creeped in there. But that's that spring effect. The more you load it, the more unload you get. And that's that spring effect. And I think this applies across the board so much. But let's dive in with revision in particular. The more a focus and energy that you put into your studies, the more you're gonna learn, the more you're gonna get out of it.
Completely, which is the whole message of, I'm gonna say, all vitamin PCs. It's about who you become along the way.
Yeah.
You're all gonna get the same level 3 mat Pilates certificate. If you pass, you're gonna get the same yoga, the same PT, exercise to music certificate. But if you've put more time, energy, and effort and force into pushing your studies down, you're going to get so much more out of it.
And what I also love is that sometimes you think it's a given, like, oh, if I just put a little bit in, I'm going to get a little bit out, that's fine. I got a little bit of knowledge I needed, that's all I need. But it's the secret stuff that you don't even imagine you're going to learn that becomes so powerful. And that's who you become along the way.
What do you mean this secret stuff? Tell me more about this.
The hidden benefits, the hidden things underneath. So if I squash that spring down just a little bit more than what I'm normally comfortable in doing, just that little bit more push, I suddenly find a whole new level of acceleration that I didn't realise I had. Now I could apply that to that one area I'm focusing in, say my revision, but then I can also apply that into how I train. I can apply it to how I work with my clients. I can apply it to how I eat food, whatever.
So for my interpretation of what you just said is, let's say for example I read and I go a little bit harder and heavier on pushing the spring down inside my reading or watching for my revision. And let's just say I watched the first two tutorials inside the revision bootcamp, or I read the first 50 pages, okay, and I push that down. In order to do that, I have to be dedicated. I have to be, have to have integrity, doing what I said I was going to do.
Committed.
I have to be committed, and I have to be consistent. So what you're saying is, it's about who you become, and those secret things you're talking about are the values of you, of moving forwards. So anybody could read 50 pages across 50 days, but if you were going to read 50 pages in a couple of days, you'd have to consistently open your manual. You'd have to do what you said you would do, which would be integrity. You'd have to be dedicated to do more, okay, and you'd have to be committed to do it in 2 days.
Yes, I think you said
follow
consistent,
through and consistent. Whereas you could say, well, I'm going to consistently read 1 page a day for 50 days. But if you're going to compress that sprint down and put more time, energy and effort and force in a shorter time, you're going to get an equal and opposite reaction and accelerate quicker the other side.
Yes.
Wicked.
And that's super powerful.
Oh, it's incredible.
Well, if the power you get out of a spring, I think sums that up a treat. Like, it can literally catapult something.
Completely. It would have this like exponential force of like bam, straight the other side.
Exactly.
So inside your revision, you could do that. You could do that by booking your exam and put your back against the wall. Now you've got a specific date where you've got to perform and you're going to be tested on. It's like, I suppose, from being a runner, an ultra runner, I knew that there was a particular date in my diary that I had to perform. Therefore, I had to push the spring down with almost no choice, and therefore had to force that opposite reaction.
Yes. Well, I think there's lots of so many springs in our world. You've got the ones that happen where you see the reaction straight away. So you do it, you get a response straight away. I've learnt that, I know it, it's done.
Yeah.
And then you get the ones whereby over a year you can be gradually pushing down the spring, but you never see any response or reaction.
I love this. This my initial thought would be, for example, on a new FitPro posting on social media.
Yes, exactly.
So you've passed, you're new. It's like, what do I do now? Where do I go? Like, there's a whole new spring. There's a whole new spring because you've pushed the revision spring down and you've passed. That was that. You celebrate at the end of that one. And then you've got this new spring where you've got to learn how to push down to start off with. You've got to learn how to push it down, put time, energy and effort and force to get an equal and opposite reaction.
But it takes a while.
Yeah.
Every day pushing a little bit more, every day pushing a little bit more.
It would be like a person after weight loss.
Nice.
Okay, but say training let's just say twice a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And they're counting their calories, they're being quite strict, they're doing everything right, they're putting a lot of time, energy and effort down on this spring in order to force weight loss, but expecting to see a couple of pounds lost at the end of the first week, which by default it should happen, but we know that the body is flux with lots of variables to a degree, and it's not going to be as simple as I wake up the next morning and I've lost some weight, or I do my first session, I've lost some weight. It takes a couple of weeks, a couple of months for the results to fully shine through. Yet so many people give up on their weight loss journey after the first 5 or 7 days or 14 days because their spring didn't react. They've only been pushing it down for 5 or 6 days, and therefore if they let go after 5 or 6 days, they only get a small rebound.
Yes.
But if you constantly push and push and push and push and push and push and push the spring down, you're gonna have that opposite and equal reaction the other side, and that's where the real results happen.
Yes. And if you flip it on its head again, the quote on its head again, and this time you look
I'd have said spring it on its head.
Spring it on its head, and you look at it from the other way around. If you want a bigger result, if you want a bigger reaction, you have to push down harder or more or over more time. So same with the weight loss example. If you want to lose several stone, you're going to have to do that over a longer period of time than just the day.
Yeah.
It has to be a longer duration. The same with if you want a fitness business that's going to be really sustainable, then you need to build that up over time in terms of that pressure. It's not going to happen in an instant.
There has never been an overnight success fitness business. You could look at and compare ourselves to, say, James Smith or Joe Wicks for Body Coach, and they will say, look at my 10-year overnight transformation.
Yeah.
They don't see the 7, 8, 9 years behind them of consistently showing up, doing the work, dedicated to an integrity to put out information on content even though no one's listening or watching, and yet we only see the final and end result, and that's where we want to be. But the reality is they've endured, and that's about endured for spring pushing down. You've got to endure that time frame until you get the equal and opposite reaction. And I think people are just after, I wouldn't say necessarily a quick result, but it's maybe a skewed perception of what's achievable and realistic in a certain time frame.
Same goes with learning.
Exactly, this is where I was going to go. Exactly.
You're trying to learn like all of the muscles instantly, or trying to learn all of the energy systems instantly, and then get frustrated with yourself that it's not stuck, and you don't know it word for word, or you can't paraphrase exactly what you just read. And actually, you can't expect to know that straight away.
It's funny how like people are almost surprised that it takes time. Does that make sense? So for example, let's take a couple of learners from our level 3 exercise referral. Okay, one learner recently enrolled and they handed in their entire LAP and video recording 4 days later. So they literally enrolled on the Monday. They got instant access to our online. We posted out their manual. They got it on I think the second post in the Tuesday. And when Hayley phoned them up to do their intro strategy call and orientate them, they said, "Oh, I've already completed the first 2 worksheets via the online resource." And Hayley then said, "Well, when do you reckon you're going to get it done by?" And they said, "Well, I'd really like to get it to you by the end of a week." Now, that's a serious amount of time, energy and effort and force to push down this spring. Yet the result was it was posted on the Thursday night. We got it on the Friday. We marked it and had their result within less than a week of enrolling. And that's that equal and opposite reaction. And then you've got, say, another learner, which is, probably the most, I'm going to say average, I don't mean that in a bad way, but takes 4 to 8, maybe even 8 to 16 weeks. So constantly over time, let's take a 16-week time frame. They're constantly pushing the spring down. They're taking action every other day across the week. And at the end of the 16 weeks, they hand the LAP in and the video recording of their session and all of their documents and whatnot, and the equal and opposite reaction. Yet there's this, I think there's a point in a learner's journey where they go, I expected to have this almost done by now. And then it's that realization of actually I've got to put more time, energy, effort and deliberate action into pushing that spring down.
And there can be a really deliberate direction to how you push your action. So if it's about your action and then the reaction you get from it, if you're not deliberately focused on what action you're taking, you can end up putting your energy in all sorts of places that aren't really relevant.
So there's you're not being productive there. You're going through a process, but you're not being productive.
This sounds a little bit funny. You end up just tickling the top of the spring rather than actually
you're still pushing the spring down, but you're perhaps not pushing it sideways. So the energy is lost instead of it just being pushed straight down and it equal and opposite reaction straight up. But if the spring has got a kink in it, then you're going to lose some of that rebound and it's not going to be an equal and opposite reaction. So you put all that time, energy, effort in, and then you feel deflated by the fact that it had a slight kink in it, and that potential energy didn't go straight up on an equal opposite reaction. It just bounded out. So it comes back to, I'm going to say, episode 1 of season 2, start with the end in mind.
What is the result you want?
What is the result you want? What is the result in your studies? What is your result you want in your exam, your LAP? What's the result you want in the micro, today's revision session? What's the result you want this week? What's the result you want out of your social media kickstarting? What's the result in terms of how many clients you want, new clients? What's the result in your marketing? What's the result in your advertising? If you start with the end in mind, you now know that you can push the spring down from the top right down to the bottom and get an equal and opposite reaction with no kinks.
Oh, lovely. And that action is deliberate, it's focused, it's clear.
Yes.
And you go, if I do that action and I do enough energy and focus on that action, either in one stint, if it's a short term, or over a long period of time, where you consistently do the same action over and over to get the response that you want. And remember, that response is not just the outcome you imagined, but all of those hidden benefits underneath as well.
Completely. So the question is who do you need to become and what do you need to do? And what is your end outcome? the end in mind, in order for you to put time, energy and effort and force and push your spring down to get an equal and opposite reaction to go back up.
That's the one.
If you're in your revision, what do you need to do today or this week in order for you to get a result?
What's the one action?
What's the one action? If you're, if that could be booking your exam, that could be doing one tutorial at revision bootcamp, that could be
making your plan for the week.
Just making your plan for the week. That, you know, and then the next point is you've recently qualified and you're like, where do I start? What's the end in mind? I would say go and listen to season 2, start at episode 1, obviously, and it's only 4 episodes, and think about what's the opposite reaction I want. Where do I want to be? What's the end outcome? What do I need to do? Who do I need to become? And maybe you're listening to this as a veteran FitPro. Maybe you've been qualified for a few months. Maybe the coronavirus...
Or you're on your own fitness journey.
Yeah, maybe the coronavirus lockdown has kind of put a pause in you getting started. But what's the end outcome? What do you need to do? Who do you need to become in order to have that push down to go and work with the people that ignite your flame and get you working with the people you want to work with so you can love every moment of being a FitPro?
Awesome.
Wicked.
Also, what I really love about this quote is it's all about action.
Yes, it's all about action.
It doesn't happen without any action.
Even on the work down, it's all about action, and it's all about action on the way back up.
And we are all about action. Like, in case you haven't guessed from the whole season, so much of it is about action, it's about doing, it's about being dedicated, it's about moving forwards.
For me, the whole season has been about, I love to find something you love and do it. And it's all been about this spark, this thing inside you, in your heart of hearts, in your gut, this intuition that says, I want to become a FitPro. I want to be an outstanding FitPro. I want to work with this particular type of client, this particular fit. This gives me goosebumps thinking about it. How, why, what do I want to do? And I want to move forwards and I want to make it happen.
Nice.
And take action.
And the other thing I love about all of these this season is the question you ask at the end. I always stumble on the question, but the question you ask at the end is always about who you become.
Yes.
And it's never about this thing of like, I need to be this finished article like now.
It's
or
never
it
going to
needs
be perfect. Yeah,
now.
completely.
And instead it's like, who do I need to become in order to make that happen? Who do I need to become?
In summary, the vitamin PCs for season 3 have been, how do I become a better version of myself? How do you become a better version of you? And the only comparison you're making is to who you were a minute ago, who you were an hour ago, who you were yesterday. And if you're constantly progressing at a really small rate, you get an extraordinary outcome come 2, 3, 4 weeks, 4 months, 5 years down the line.
Which was this spring.
But you only have, but all you need to do is to take one small ninja move action today.
Because every action has an
opposite reaction. And there we have it. The end of season number 3.
Episode 10.
Episode 10.
Now, if you haven't already, then again, make sure you take a photo of you listening or screenshot and share it to your stories on social or in our inner circle.
I want to see as many comments inside the Parallel Coaching Inner Circle as possible. And it doesn't need to be a picture. It could just be a comment post and just say, listening to FitPro Sessions, episode 10, loving it, whatever.
I'd love to know what the favourite episode has been.
Tell us what your favourite episode is.
What's been your favourite episode?
So there's lots of calls to action today.
Yeah. Action.
Action. You know,
And listen to the next one.
From a marketing perspective, it's like, just have one call to action. I'm going to have another call to action and say, join us on Thursday for season number 4. I'm really excited for season number 4. We're going to take a slight turn on it and we're going to explore, I'm not going to give it away, I'm going to explore one aspect of health, one aspect of one particular course, and we're going to explode one area for one session, and we're going to talk about one big topic from one course and open it up, and we're going to keep doing that. And I think this next
a lot of knowledge to be pulled
not knowledge
out
we haven't
this one.
fully, we're recording this a good couple of weeks out, so it's not fully planned and locked down, but I'm thinking there's going to be at least 8, maybe even 14 episodes to the next season.
8 or 14?
8 to 14.
Oh, that's very specific.
From early plans, but I'm really excited for this next one because we're going to get into the nitty gritty of a particular course and understand what it is as fitness professionals we can and can't do and who we can work with. So maybe that's giving it away, I don't know. But outside of that, we'll see you on Thursday for next FitPro Session
Season number 4.
There we go. See you later. Bye.
Hi, I'm Neil Bergman.
And I'm Hayley Bergman. Over the last 10 years, we've helped thousands of fitness professionals to get qualified, learn with simplicity, and coach clients with confidence.
We're the first to say that learning and being a FitPro doesn't have to be hard work, and that with the right structure, support and resources, you can become a confident and knowledgeable fitness professional that is dedicated to more.
So how do you learn, qualify and kickstart as a FitPro? This is the FitPro Sessions podcast with Parallel Coaching.